Hey guys, you're welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how you can create a CSS loader from scratch. Yeah, for those of you that are used to building web applications and using the Bootstrap for, I know Bootstrap already have this class for creating a loader, but today I'm going to show you how you can create your own style of loader. Alright, so and if you're new to my channel, I advise you just click the subscribe button and click the bell notification just because I put up a new video. Alright, okay, so now let's get started with this tutorial. So first of all, I'm going to run my terminal, and I already had a folder, my document folder called web design, so I'm going to create a new folder called CSS tutorial. So first of all, I'm going to cd into my document folder, then I'll say web design. Okay, now we're in that folder. I'm going to create a new folder called CSS tutorial. Okay, now if I list what I have in there, you can see that we have two folders, HTML tutorial and CSS tutorial. Okay, so now I'm going to dive into the CSS tutorial, the one I just created right now. Okay, now inside this folder, I'm just going to create just a web page, so an index.html. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to doing a internal CSS. Okay, I'm not going to create an external CSS file, just an internal. So I'm going to work in there just because it's just a very simple load I'm going to create. So I'm just going to use my text editor now. Say gedit. So for those of you have other editor like Visual Studio Code, you can use that. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to use any sort of IntelliSense editor. I'm just going to use the number text editor that came with my operating system. So I'm going to say gedit index.html. Okay, so my editor is going to come out. So we're going to start doing our CSS. So now this is the HTML file we created just right now from our text editor. Okay, now for those of you that haven't seen my HTML video on HTML tutorial, I'd like you to go check up on that video. So I'm going to show you how you can create a basic HTML page, in other words a basic web page. So I'm going to save you all this time, just going to copy and paste the code and you can start designing our loader. Okay, so now I'm just going to copy and paste that. Alright, so these are the basic components of an HTML web page. Alright, so let's get started, but meanwhile I'm going to save this file first and run it on my browser. So I just hit the save button. Alright, then I go to the folder where I created from my operating system. So I'm going to go to documents, and this is the web design folder, the CSS tutorial, and this is the file we're working on. Okay, so I'm going to double click it, and this is how it's going to show in our browser. So there's nothing inside. So now let's get started and start feeding this page with something. So first of all, I'm going to create a title, so I'll call it CSS loader. Okay, then in the body, alright, so what I'm going to do right now is this. Actually, a loader is just a div. Alright, it's a container on your web page. So the way you style it is going to tell, or is going to represent whatever you want it to show. So meanwhile, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to create a div. Alright, then I'm going to call it, let's close my tag, then I'm going to give it an ID, call it loader. Alright, okay, so actually this div is not going to get anything. So it's from our CSS, we're going to style it so it can be whatever I want to be. So even if I hit the save button and open up on the browser, it's not going to show anything yet. Okay, there's nothing going to show. You can see just the page title has been incorporated in our design. So we're going to continue on that and work on it. So first of all, I would like to create our CSS tag. In other words, our style tag and head. Like I told you earlier, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to do an internal CSS. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that just for a few sec. Now, internal CSS means that you are styling your web page inside a particular file, inside a HTML file where your web page is located. Okay, but external CSS, you're just going to create another file from another folder, then you're going to load it up in using maybe the link tag. Okay, but we're not going to do all that. Okay, it's just a simple, just want to keep it simple and basic. Okay, all right, so now on this style tag, I'm addressing this particular div, okay, and I gave it an ID called loader. So I'm going to create a selector here, CSS selector. I'm going to call it loader. All right, then I'm going to hit the enter button. So first of all, I want us to see what we're working on. So I'm going to give it a width. Let's work with 100 pixels first for a start. Then I give it a height. Give it 100 pixels also. So it's going to be a complete square. All right. Okay. Then let me just add a border to it. So I'm going to use the border shorthand property. It is solid. Then make it a color maybe black. Okay. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to open up my browser and reload the page. Now this is what we got. Okay. So this is just the size of the div we created. So it has a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. So it's a total square. All right. Okay. So now let's continue with that. Okay, you know what? Since I'm going to put my screen on one side, then I put the browser on the other side so we can see exactly what we're working on. Okay, good, very good. Okay, now I'm going to like to put this, let it be on the middle. So I'm going to say margin auto. Okay, so on that, hit the save button. That will bring our design to the middle here. Okay, now also. Now we already see that. So what I'm going to create now, I'm going to say the border. I'm going to set the border colors for all the borders. Okay, so I'm going to say using the border color. So now I'm addressing the top of the border. In other words, this part. So I'm going to give it a color. Okay, let's say I use the green. So let's see. Here's the decimal value for green. Then if I hit the save button. I hit the save button and I say the border right is the right part of our CSS, or in other words for our div. I'm going to call it transparent or whatever color I want to call it. Okay, let's just start with the standard colors first. So let's say I call this one red. Okay, let me use the red. Okay, then the bottom part of the border, which is this side, let's give it the blue. So call this that. Okay, then we're going to deal with this part also, so let's give it another color. Let's call it let's say whatever color I want to call it. Let's call it yellow, green, or whatever color. Let's say FF00FF. So I'm going to hit the save button and then reload this page. Then oops, sorry. Okay, great, this is probably brother style, so I'm going to call it solid. Okay, so we can have what we're dealing with. Good. So now the border style, and I gave it a style. So we have the top one, which is the green, and the right, the red, and this, the blue, and this is just the magenta. In other words, the pink and purple, whatever you're gonna call it. Okay. So at this point, I'm gonna explain something to you here regarding this CSS style. You know, normally borders have different styles. So we have the solid, we have the dotted, we have all kinds. So I would like us to just use the dotted type. Okay, so when I hit the save button and click the reload, you see all the style are going to be dotted. All right, so it all depends on the style you want to use. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to use the dotted. Okay, but this is not how I want my style to look like. It's not how I want my loader to look like. So I know you'll be wondering how is going to have that round spinning stuff. Very good. Don't worry, we're going to do that right now. So now I'm going to create I'm going to use a CSS property called border radius. Okay, now what border radius does is simply that it curves the edges of all the sides of a particular container. So for the sake, I want to get a circle, so I'm going to use border radius 50%. So in other words, it's going to take half here, curve it off 50%. So when I save it and reload the page, you see, boom, we have a circle. All right, good. So our loader is taking shape. But meanwhile, what I was talking about here this time around, that I don't want this design, I don't want this type, so I'm going to use just one loader. So if you want to do that, all you have to do is to go to the border color and just pick out one of them, just call it transparent. Okay, and call the other one transparent. So as you remove each and every one of them to go out, and it's going to look something like this. Oops, sorry. um, oops, it's not supposed to be this. Okay, so hit save. Now this is how it looks like. So do the same for here also. Transparent. And reload the page. Now it's looking just like this. Okay. Okay. Now also I'm not really comfortable with the size of my border, so I can increase the size of the border to maybe 2 pixels or 5, so they can be a bit larger. So I'll say border width. Let's say 2 pixels. Okay, save, reload. Okay, looks thinner. Okay, let's say 10. Let's see how it looks like. Quite big. Okay, let's leave it at 5. I think 5 is a better place. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So next, let's create an animation for our CSS. Okay, so I'm gonna create what we call keyframes. I'll say add keyframes. Okay, so I'm gonna give it a name. Let me call this one a loader. That's the name. Okay, so now how this keyframe works is this. It works like this. It has our start and a finish. In other words, start and end, or you can create it at 0% to 100%. So in all those times, you're gonna set all the CSS transitions or their animation effect on this period of time. Okay, so I could say from 0%. All right, and I'm gonna do this. This was gonna operate on 0%. Then also when it gets to 100%, this is the animation I wanted to carry out. Okay, so I'm gonna add a CSS property called transform. Okay, and transform is just a way of transforming your whatever element you're working on. So I'm gonna say rotate. Rotate is a function. I'll say 0 degree. Okay, on the start. Then on the finish, because this is a circle, so I want this animation to rotate from here to 360 degree. So I'm just gonna say transform rotate 360 degree. Okay, so if I click save and click on load, it's not going to do anything. So first of all, also we're going to add a transition. Okay, a transition CSS property. Oops, transition. Okay, there are different type of transitions we have. We have the linear, we have easy and out, so we're going to use the linear on this one. So if I rotate this, okay, then also I'm going to add the animation. So I'm going to give it a name called loader. Okay, so that's the name of our animation. So say animation duration. So let's say 0.5 seconds. So that's the total time the animation is going to run. So let's save and reload. You see that? Just spin all around and stop. Okay, get it now? See, when I reload the page, it rotates 360 degrees. So that's using this keyframe. So whatever keyframe animation you're setting, whatever name, that is what it's going to add as an animation name. So just say, for example, I remove the name here and save it and reload. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to work. So I take it back to the way it was, and I click on reload. So you see, it's now dealing with the animation. Now, for us to make this thing more smoother, all right. In other words, it means that we have to try a way to break all the animation effect from 0% to 100%. Okay, it's quite simple to do that. So in other words, even on this part, you can decide to even also change the color of the animation color, that's the border color, to when it rotates to 100%, you should change the color to maybe something else. So you can also say border color. Let's say let's give it a black also. Okay, so it's gonna change everything to black at the end. So it's just an example. So on your animation effect, whatever style you want to add, you see that whatever style you want to add in that, you can do that. So it's all up to you. All right. So now let's deal with how we can make this into rotate infinitely. So in other words, going to rotate non-stop. So there's a property, animation property on CSS. We call it animation count, and that is called infinite. So oops, animation count. Am I missing something? Okay, animation. Oh, sorry, animation iteration count. Iteration count. Okay. All right. So I put it on infinite. So if I reload the page, you see it's just gonna rotate, 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 and keep rotating infinitely. Okay. Now, when you look at this design right now, the styling, it's not really the animation is quite too fast, and scrolling is not that smooth. So let's gonna try to make this more smoother by creating more frames for our animation. So all we're gonna do now, I'm gonna create percentage from 0 to 100, so different transitions for them. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do next. So in order for us to achieve that for the smooth transition, I'm gonna create since a circle, it's made of 360 degrees. Okay, so in other words, I want this to rotate smoothly, which means that on 0% is going to rotate on 0 degrees. Alright, so if I divide 360 by 100, we have 36 degrees. So at every 10% of our animation, this effect or this loader is going to rotate 36 degrees. So we're going to split all that into various types on various styles until we get to 100%. So say at 0%, give me 0 degrees. So at 36%, you're gonna give me, I'm gonna say transform, same thing. I'll say rotate 36 degree. Okay, good. Look, now I know for those of you, it's gonna be very tedious how I come up with this calculation. It's just simple mathematics. Okay, it's just you just have to find a way to get it done so it could be 100. So I'm just going to do all that. So I'm going to save and click on reload. You see, it gets smoother as we continue. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to copy and paste all this. Already done that. Then we can continue our tutorial for that. So all I'm going to do now is just to copy and paste the animations that I've already done already. So all from 0% straight up to 100%. Okay, so this is how our animation is going to look like. So you can see that 0% 0 degrees, 10% 36 degrees, 20% 72 degrees. So it's going to rotate gradually and more smoother. So I'm going to save it and reload. You get it now. You see how smooth it is? Very smooth. So if you want to make it more slower, you can just increase the time. So this is 0.5 seconds for a cycle. So if I turn it to 1 second, it becomes more slower, and you can see that. You see, the longer the iteration, the animation duration, the longer it takes. So it takes exactly 1 second for you to get a complete cycle. Okay, so I can make it more smaller, maybe 0.8, less than 0.7, just a little bit, quarter of a second. So it gets more, a little bit faster and smoother. And you can see now it's no longer rotating like it used to rotate before. Okay, now there are different kind of transition effects you can do. You have the easing. Okay, the easing effect slows from the beginning and at the end becomes faster. Okay, or we can do the easing out. The easing out effect, it gets slow in the beginning, and at the middle it gets faster, and at the end again it's going to get faster again. So we're going to leave it on this one for now for the sake of this. Now you can see that this is a loader. It's loading and it's rotating continuously. Okay, so that's all for our CSS loader. And mind you, remember, you can always add in whatever style you want to add on your animation. So during this percentage, you can maybe decide to change the color, maybe the border color to whatever you want to change it, or different colors as it rotates. You can just do that from every percentage in here. So you can do whatever thing you want to do just to your own taste. Okay, so that's for that for this tutorial. I hope this helped you do whatever you want to do. I hope this helped you to create your own loader to build your web application. So in other words, as long as you're on this channel, just click the subscribe button, click the like button so I can put up a new video. So in our next video, I'm going to show you how you can incorporate this loader and the button. Maybe you want to do a sign up registration or a login authentication. When you just click on the button, this loader comes in place before the actual page opens or whatever function you want to create. So that's for that on CSS. Have a great day and thank you.